37-year-old male, 40-year-old female, okay? So about 3 years ago, I met the girl of my dreams. I was single for a good 5 years after a long, messy marriage. Within those 5 years, I had little short relationships slash hookups, etc. But nothing seemed to last, so I practically gave up. Then Facebook created their own dating app. So I created a profile. After a few conversations that went nowhere, I received a message from my current girlfriend. We talked for a few weeks before exchanging numbers. So the daily talking became more frequent, and we finally met for the first time. I knew it was love at first sight. Fast forward a few months, she invited me to her house. After a few times, she wanted to come to mine. However, after going through a tough few years, I was mentally and financially struggling. So, I was currently staying in a room at my parents' house. As a man who can be insecure at times, I really didn't think this beautiful woman would be interested in me if she knew I was living with my parents. So, after a few times of me making excuses why she couldn't come to my house, I made up the lie that is currently destroying my relationship. I told her my parents were having a tough time and needed to move in with me due to money issues. Man, I so regret doing this. So, after a year or so of dating, I completely forgot I even said that. She was around my family more frequently, and my mom kept saying my house, my stuff, and stuff like that, which obviously gave my girlfriend red flags. So, about a month ago, she brought it up to me, and I came clean, saying I moved in with them, not what I told her. So that was a hard thing to explain because she didn't see it my way, why I did it, because I thought no girl would date a guy living with his parents. My main reason for lying. The last few months have been extremely rough. She thinks I'm hiding and lying about stuff that I'm truly not. It's been almost 3 years, and now she feels she can't trust me because of the stupidity of myself. A few months into the relationship. Edit. So she currently thinks I'm lying about seeing my daughter. My ex and I have a very flexible schedule on when we share time. So my ex moved recently, and it's a lot further of a drive. I don't want to be an every other weekend dad. So I used to see my daughter 2 days during the week when she lived close. But for the last few months, I haven't. And my girlfriend thinks I'm not trying hard enough or lying that my daughter is busy that day. She's gone through my phone without me knowing and thinks I'm deleting messages with my daughter's mother about conversations about getting my daughter. She doesn't think I'm cheating. What do I do? She says she needs me to prove to her that she can trust me. Yet everything lately has seemed to be an issue when it shouldn't. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. That's a pretty big lie, not necessarily the content degree of the lie initially, but that you lied to her, misled her in engaging with you with regards to the relationship, carried on with the lie throughout the relationship, try to justify it when caught. It's way bigger than a one-sentence lie. You didn't forget the lie, you fed it and gave it life throughout your relationship. Not cool. Smart girl for catching on. Dumb girl for continuing with you when you breached her trust to this extent. I would also question what else you are lying about. You essentially lied to her every day by not fessing up. You need to see this from the other side. Comment 2. You realize that you just accurately admitted to manipulating her. You thought a piece of information would cause her to not be interested in you, so intentionally withheld, twisted the information so she couldn't make a fully informed decision about dating you. That's a really awful lie. If you can tell that type of lie and keep it going for so long, I wouldn't trust anything you say either. So of course, everything turns into an issue. This is a huge issue. The first step you need to take is accountability and facing the fact that she has every reason to distrust everything you say. Now for the update. Thanks for sticking around to hear more of this mess. So the other day, things got even worse. My girlfriend found an old photo of me and my ex, the one I told you about before, tucked away in a book. It was from before I even met her. But try explaining that to someone who already thinks you're hiding things. She flipped out, saying I was still hung up on my ex. I tried to tell her it was just an old picture I forgot about, but she wasn't having any of it. Then my mom got involved. She's always been a bit nosy and overheard us arguing. She decided to take matters into her own hands and called my girlfriend aside for a little chat. My mom told her all about how I've been struggling since the divorce, how I've been working hard to get back on my feet, and how much I cared about her. I guess she thought it would help, but it just made things more complicated. My girlfriend got this look on her face, like she was piecing together a puzzle. She asked my mom about the living situation, and my mom, bless her, spilled everything. She confirmed that I moved in with them because I was broke, not the other way around. That's when my girlfriend turned to me, her eyes all teary, and said she needed time to think. I felt like I was watching my whole world crumble. I knew I had to do something big to show her I was serious about us, so I made a plan to get my own place. I started picking up extra shifts at work, selling stuff I didn't need, and I even talked to a buddy who had a cheap apartment for rent. A few days later, I got the keys to my new place. I was so excited to show my girlfriend that I was taking steps to fix things. But when I called her to come over, she said she was busy. Turns out, she was actually meeting with my ex-wife. I found out because my daughter mentioned it when I finally got to see her. She said, "Mommy met with the girlfriend's name, and they talked about you." My heart sank. I couldn't believe it. My girlfriend and my ex chatting about me behind my back? I felt betrayed. I didn't know what they talked about, but I was sure it wasn't good. I confronted my girlfriend, and she admitted they met to talk about my relationship with my daughter and if I was really as involved as I said I was. I was furious. I felt like my loyalty was being tested from all sides, but instead of blowing up, I decided to use it to my advantage. I invited both of them to my new apartment, without telling either one the other would be there. I wanted to clear the air once and for all. When they both showed up, it was tense. My ex started by saying she never meant to cause trouble. She just wanted to make sure I was doing right by our daughter. My girlfriend listened, and I could see her starting to understand the whole picture. I took that moment to lay everything out on the table. My struggles, my efforts to be a good dad, and how much I wanted to make things right with her. In the end, my girlfriend saw that I was trying to be honest and make amends. She agreed to give me another chance, and we decided to take things slow. As for my ex, she apologized for the misunderstanding and promised to keep our co-parenting discussions between us. But here's where I got my sweet revenge. My ex's new boyfriend, who I always suspected was a bit of a snake, had been feeding her lies about me to drive a wedge between us. With my girlfriend and ex talking, they figured out his game. My ex dumped him on the spot, and now he's out of our lives for good. It's been pretty tough, but things are looking up. I've got my own place, my girlfriend back, and my ex and I are on better terms for our daughter's sake. Thanks for reading. My soon-to-be ex-husband stalks his online crush and plans to harm me, but I team up with her and the cops to put him behind bars and teach his family a lesson about messing with the wrong woman. I say all of this without exaggeration. I am certain he was getting ready to unalive us. After nearly 8 months of turmoil, I'm finally close to understanding. My soon-to-be ex-husband is in love with a woman he came across on social media, and he has been obsessing over her for at least a year. She also happens to be an intimacy worker, and he was paying her for her time and attention. In his mind, he believed they could have a future together, if only he could get rid of my children and me. Even though this woman gave him no inkling that she even wanted to be with him, he has spent so much of our money on this woman. I am at a loss for words that could accurately describe the situation. I can barely believe half of the things he's been up to. I've spent the past few weeks playing detective, and I finally decided to contact Jessica. This is obviously not her name, but I need to call her something. I contacted Jessica, and at first she was very reluctant to speak to me, but I literally begged her to, and she was kind enough to get on the phone with me. She told me that she had been seeing him for a while, but she stopped seeing him because he started to scare her. He was sending her unhinged messages and voicemails. He had been stalking her and trying to convince her to be with him. Jessica eventually stopped seeing him and had him blocked, and I guess this is when he started to escalate from emotional abuse to physically harassing my children and myself. He was looking for a way out, and in his crazy mind, ending the life of us would free him because the only reason Jessica wouldn't be with him was because my children and I were in the way. During our long call, I also explained to Jessica what had been happening to me. and she was genuinely kind and helpful. She also agreed to speak to my lawyer and to send them the thousands of unhinged texts, voicemails, and voice notes he sent her. For a little while after our conversation, a part of me genuinely hated Jessica and wanted to blame her for everything. But the rational part of me pushed out those unreasonable and dangerous thoughts, especially after I read his disturbing texts and heard his voicemail/notes to Jessica. She has also been victimized by him. Honestly, there is nothing like listening to your husband and father of your children talk about how you and your children mean nothing to him and how he wishes you were dead. He could have just asked for a divorce or just got up and left. I sent him a few texts asking him why. This was a one-time thing, and since then I've stopped all contact. Why do all of this? Why torment my babies? Why not just walk away? He responded with a message saying any conversation between us should be through our lawyers. His parents have him lawyered up. They know what he's been up to, and they've chosen to protect him. His father came to see me, and in a not-so-direct way, suggested he could pay me if I stopped talking about what his son has done, and was planning on doing. Ever since he broke into the house and pretty much tried to unalive me, I've told anyone who'd listen what he has done. At this point, even his colleagues know. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Let's be clear. This was not the love of another woman. Jessica has no love for your husband, and rightly cut off their business relationship when he went psycho on her. Unhinged does not begin to describe him right now. I'm glad she's cooperating with you and hope the information she's provided you helps your case. Comment 2. How good is your lawyer? Does your state have laws in place about squandering marital assets? Because the receipts from Jessica could be very helpful in your settlement. I'm sorry this happened to you, OP. Protect yourself and your kids. Now, for the update. Thanks for all the comments on my last post. I say all of this without exaggeration. I am certain he was getting ready to unalive us. After nearly 8 months of turmoil, I'm finally close to understanding. The past 3 days have been pretty tough. After I refused his father's hush money, things got worse. My soon-to-be ex-husband, let's call him John, decided to take matters into his own hands. He broke into the house again. But this time, he wasn't alone. He brought a friend, someone I'd never seen before, a big guy who looked like trouble. They trashed the place, looking for documents, I guess, or maybe just to intimidate me. But they didn't find me at home. I had taken the kids to my sister's place, anticipating something like this might happen. The next day, I found out that John had been fired from his job. His colleagues, who I had told about his plans, didn't take the news lightly. They went to the higher-ups, and with a police report and a restraining order in hand, I guess the company didn't have much choice. But losing his job only made John more desperate and angry. He started sending threatening messages to my phone, saying that I had ruined his life and that I would pay for it. I was scared, but I was also angry. How dare he blame me for the consequences of his own actions? I decided to take another bold step. I went to the police with everything, the messages, the voicemails, the threats. They listened, and this time they acted. They arrested John and his friend for breaking and entering, and with the evidence of his threats, they were also considering charges of attempted attack. But here's where it gets even crazier. John's friend, the big guy, he flipped. He told the police everything. How John had been planning to make me disappear, how he'd been talking about it for months. He spilled the beans in exchange for a plea deal. I was shocked. I knew John was capable of a lot, but to actually plan something like that, it was like something out of a crime show. The aftermath was a mess. John's parents, who had been trying to protect him, were now in the spotlight too. It turned out they knew more than they let on. They had been helping him cover his tracks, using their money and influence. But with John's friend's testimony, their involvement started to unravel. The police were now investigating them as well. And Jessica, she was a key witness in all of this. Her testimony, along with the evidence she provided, was damning. It showed a pattern of behavior that backed up everything I had said. She was brave, and I couldn't help but feel grateful to her, despite everything. As for me and the kids, we're still at my sister's place. It's not over yet, but it feels like we're finally safe, like we can start to breathe again. I've been talking to a therapist, trying to work through the betrayal and the fear. The kids are resilient, but they've been through so much. We're all gonna need time to heal from this. I never wanted any of this. I just wanted a normal life, a happy family. But I guess that was too much to ask for with John. Now I just want to put all of this behind us, to move on and find some peace. It's going to be a long road, but at least now there's hope. Thanks for reading. My partner throws tantrums and spills hot coffee on me. But when I find out about the gambling and cheating, I make sure they lose everything in the divorce and learn never to mess with me again. We have been together for just over 1 year. Early on in the relationship, I noticed that he has some issues controlling his anger, but I thought, nobody's perfect. And maybe as he gets more comfortable with me, he'll stop getting triggered by small things. Over the last year, he did things such as saying fuck off to me in anger, probably 3 times, throwing his sunglasses on the ground in anger and breaking them, kicking a suitcase in anger, kinda in my direction, and now it seems that this reached another level. He deliberately split a warm coffee cup on me in anger in public as I was trying to calm him down. Just a bit more detail on the coffee situation. So first, he accidentally spilled a little bit of coffee on my new trousers, which he kept in a bag. I wasn't particularly happy, but I also wasn't particularly upset. I didn't say a word, maybe sighed. I was tired and hungry, probably in a slightly grumpy mood. Sure, in an ideal scenario, I would have said, "Don't worry, honey, it's just trousers." But I didn't have the energy in me. Anyway, the fact that I wasn't ultra happy upset him a lot. He went on an anger spiral, so I eventually started apologizing to him and tried to calm him down. However, as I was apologizing, I kind of realized the grotesqueness of the situation. He spilled coffee on my new trousers, yet I am apologizing to him. So even though I was saying plenty of kind things, "Don't worry, it's just trousers. I'm just a little grumpy today, I'm sorry." I did say something rather unhelpful. "So I'm sorry that I am grumpy, but it's my trousers that got coffee spilt on them." I wanted to emphasize that I am apologizing, but maybe he should apologize to me too. That triggered him to the point that he threw that coffee cup at me, spilling it all over my jumper and the trousers that I was wearing. I was shocked. Later on, when he tried apologizing for this whole thing, he said that he realized that was not nice and not kind, WTF. And also he claimed that he wasn't targeting me, but the new trousers in the bag that he was holding. I told him, "Well, next time you want to punch a wall and you accidentally kick my teeth out, that's going to be okay too." He was trying to laugh it off. He also said, "Look, but my anger is not getting worse over time." And I was slightly confused because clearly a new line has been crossed with this coffee thing. Overall, felt like a rather poor apology, but I accepted it. I just warned him that he can't do something like this again, and that aggression scares me. Okay, now, we're in the process of buying a house together. He is able to afford getting us a house in a really nice area. My contribution to the house is frankly going to be very small. So yesterday he said that he expects me to cook more in the house because he is giving more from himself. He often orders us takeaways and pays for them. I cook probably 2 to 3 times a week. We both have full-time jobs. While I generally don't mind cooking for him, and in the new house maybe I would indeed feel like I owe him so out of my own will, I would indeed cook more. The phrasing that he used sounded extremely transactional. I even told him that, and he said, "Yes, it is transactional." And he basically felt unhappy with my contributions to the relationship. I like the guy. We have many interests in common. He's responsible, generally a good person. Of course, it is also very attractive that he is ready and willing to commit, and that he is thinking about the house and family. But many things just feel like red flags. I don't want to owe somebody a dinner, or I don't want to owe somebody a blowjob because he is paying off a bigger portion of the mortgage. I want to do these things out of love, not out of obligation. I don't think he is on the same page with me here. I don't know what to do. Help///update. Thank you all for your responses. They're really helpful. I've just talked with my boyfriend and I told him my concerns. He was a bit defensive about the coffee incident. By the way, it was 2 weeks ago. He apologized for it again, but he was insisting that he was just pouring the coffee over the newly bought trousers that he held in a bag. He said he didn't throw it at me, and he doesn't agree with that statement. He says that this would be violence. I'm honestly slightly confused. Maybe he indeed was just targeting the bag with the trousers. But does it make it that much better? He agreed to go to a few therapy sessions, even though he said he doesn't think he's got anger issues. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Apologies, I only read the first part of the post. But I just want to say, this is how my hurtful relationship started. And guess what? With time, things just got worse and escalated. I've seen the same with other friends and their boyfriends, so please save yourself now and get out of the relationship. Also, please seek counseling to better understand why this behavior hasn't already sent you packing your bags. Comment 2. Do not buy a house together. If this is how he is, he hasn't directly put his hands on you. But who knows when he is too angry, and he will do that too. Just break up with this guy. He will turn hurtful when he is angry. Now for the update. Thank you all for sticking with me through this. So, after the therapy sessions, things seemed to be getting better, or so I thought. We moved into the new house, and for a while, it was like living in a dream. But you know how it is. The past has a way of creeping up on you when you least expect it. One evening I was cooking dinner, and he came home in a foul mood. He had a rough day at work, and I could tell he was on edge. I tried to lighten the mood, but then I dropped a plate. It shattered, and that's when he lost it. He started yelling, and I could see that same anger in his eyes. I thought therapy had helped, but in that moment, I knew nothing had changed. The next day, I found out he had been lying to me about something else. He had a gambling problem, one he'd hidden from me all this time. The stakes were high, and our finances were in jeopardy. I felt betrayed, and the trust we had built started to crumble. I couldn't believe he'd kept this from me, and the resentment started to build, but I wasn't going to let this slide. I took control of our finances and confronted him about his gambling. He tried to deny it at first, but I had proof. I told him he needed to get help or I was done. He agreed, but I could tell he was ashamed. It was a side of him I'd never seen before. Things were tense for a while, but then came the news. I found out he had been seeing someone else. It was like a punch to the gut. All the lies, the cheating, it was too much. I was furious, and I wanted to make him pay for everything he'd put me through. So I planned my revenge. I gathered evidence of his infidelity and gambling, and I went to a lawyer. I made sure that when we separated, I wouldn't be left with nothing. It was a tough battle, but I stood my ground. In the end, I walked away with a fair settlement. It wasn't just about the money. It was about standing up for myself. After the dust settled, I felt a sense of relief. I was free from the lies and the anger. I started to rebuild my life, and I found strength I never knew I had. It was a hard lesson, but I learned that I deserved better. Thank you for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.